Let's come right over and disconnect our negative battery terminal. Get this loose. Let's start taking apart the top of the engine here. Let's carefully lift up on this. We want to be very careful not to dump any dirt into our engine. And I'll just pop this off of here so we can set it aside. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and grab onto our coil wire right here. I'm just going to pop this off. This is the center wire, which is the coil wire. After that, what you want to do is try to mark all of your wires so you know exactly where they're going to go. What I'm going to do is take off half of the wires. I want to take off all the wires from the passenger side so I can unscrew this cap and pull it off to the side. I've got them marked already. I can move along. If it's easiest for you, you could just mark the first wire as 1. That's going to be the one that's closest to the coil right here, easiest to remember. And then if you were to go around clockwise, you can of course mark it to which cylinder that you had it, or you can just go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way around, as long as you can remember the exact order they came from. Get this off of here. Slide those out of the way. Now we're going to remove our 2 bolts using a 5.5mm socket. There's one right here. And then there's going to be one located on this side of the cap as well. All right, we can carefully lift this up. We'll slide it out of the way. Now we have access to our wires for our distributor. Go ahead and grab onto the tab. Lift it off. Of course, you want to check it for any funny colors. Set that out of the way. Looks good. Set that out of the way as well. Now that I have all that out of the way, you have a nice clear view of the wiring harness that leads to this. I'm just going to go ahead and grab onto this tab, pop it off. This is the tab right here. Inspect it, make sure you don't see any funny colors. If you do, it's corrosion and it needs to be dealt with. That looks good, so I'll set it aside. All right, so we have that all out of the way. Let's continue on with some pliers. And what we want to do is just grab right onto this OP switch right along here, or oil pressure sensor. I like to grab onto the metal aspect of it, but before I go ahead and remove it, just pay attention to the threaded area. You can see the threaded area isn't necessarily threaded all the way into this part right here. It's only really approximately halfway. Grab this with some pliers. Once you get it broken free, it should come out pretty easy. There it is, friends. Now that we have it out, let's take a quick comparison of the new one. You want to make sure it's got the same amount of prongs inside there. And then of course we're going to look at the threaded area. We have the same length, but something that I want to pay attention to is where you can see where the rust is. The area where the rust is where it wasn't necessarily screwed into, so that's exactly how far we're going to want to screw in our brand new one. Only approximately 1/3 to even halfway up the threading here. Now we can get ready to install our brand new oil pressure sensor. Just going to take this, I'll line it up with the hole that I removed the original one from. Start screwing it in by hand until it's snug, and then we'll give it a couple extra turns with the pliers. All right, it's nice and snug. Give it a teeny bit more. All right, now you can see that I don't necessarily have it fully screwed in, but it's at least 1/3 to halfway. Connect in your wiring harnesses, give it a click, make sure it's nice and snug. Connect in the OP switch. Give that a tug as well. Perfect. Take your distributor cap, line up your 2 mounting bolts. Snug them up. All right, let's get our wires back on here. Double check to make sure all of your wires are secure and in the right order. Down over this. Reattach it to that. You should see this want to line up right in here. Now we can grab our air filter and our cover. This cover you can put in any direction you want to have. This is just the way that the cover was originally, so I'm going to go ahead and put it the same way. Make sure these are nice and tight. Give that a nice wiggle, make sure it's secure. Reconnect your negative battery terminal. Okay friends, we got our oil pressure switch in there. What's left to do now? Now I would recommend to give yourself an oil change. You want to make sure that you change out the oil and the filter. After you have fresh oil and filter, go ahead and start it up. Make sure you check that gauge. Make sure it's sitting exactly where it needs to be. Not all the way up, not all the way down, but perfectly in the middle.